Global food security largely depends on three important cereal crops: wheat, rice, and maize. In terms of both production and productivity, maize is the number one cereal. Maize production surpassed rice in 1996 and wheat in 1997 and is now close to 1135 million tons. The top 5 producers are United States, China, Brazil, Argentina, and India. The global harvested area is 197 million hectares, and the top 5 producing countries are China, Brazil, US, India, and Mexico. The world's average yield is 5.75 tons per hectare. Maize is a multi-purpose crop used as human food, poultry feed, or fed to livestock as green chop fodder or silage. Besides this, maize has multiple industrial products like flakes, oil, flour, starch, custard powder, jelly, bioplastic containers, glucose, alcohol, and wax. In developed countries like US, maize is also grown as an important biofuel crop. A variety of industrial products and multiple uses of maize are due to its unique composition and different types of maize. If we look at the composition of maize, it contains about 80% starch, 7.2% fats, 10.2% proteins, 1.2% digestible fibers, and 1.3% different minerals on an average basis. Different types of corn which are grown include dent, flint, popcorn, sweet corn, pod corn, etc. Dent corn or field corn is characterized by a depression called dent in the crown. This dent is caused by the rapid drying and shrinkage of the soft starch at the crown. The yellow and white kernels dominate commercial production. Flint corn is predominantly comprised of a hard starch which encloses the soft starch in the center. The kernels are smooth, hard, and usually rounded at the top. Flour corn, as the name implies, consists almost entirely of soft starch, making the kernels soft. It can have the shape of dent corn but shrinks uniformly on drying. Popcorn is an extreme form of flint corn. It has a very hard endosperm with only a small portion of soft starch. The kernel pops on heating as a result of the unique quality of the endosperm that makes it resist the steam pressure generated. Sweet corn is a mutant of dent corn with a mutation at the sugary locus. This mutation causes the endosperm to accumulate about 2 times more sugar than field corn. Pod corn has primitive features, each kernel being enclosed in a pod or husk. Pod corn versions of the other corn types like flint pod corn or dent pod corn are also available. Waxy corn has a uniformly dull appearance. Instead of amylose, the starch of waxy corn consists of amylopectin. So these are different types of corn based on endosperm and glume characteristics. Botanically, maize is called as Zea maize and belongs to the cereal family, that is Poaceae. Maize is an annual grass which can reach a height of 10 to 15 feet, and it is a unique cereal which is non-tillering. Its no known wild form exists, and it is monoecious but with male and female flowers separated on the same plant. Maize plants have two distinct sets of roots: seminal roots that arise from seed and nodal roots that arise from nodes. The seminal or seed roots includes radicle, that is the first root emerging from the seed, and seminal roots are responsible for taking up water and nutrients and for anchorage of the plant. Seminal roots are important for the survival of seedlings. Any damage to seminal roots can delay emergence and development of the seedlings. The number of seminal roots is 3 to 5. Above the seminal roots, 1 to 2 inches below the soil surface, crown or coronal roots arise from the nodes of stem. The number of these crown roots is 15 to 20 times the seminal roots. The nodal roots are visible by the V2 stage of development. Nodal roots that form above the ground are called adventitious, buttress, prop, or brace roots. If conditions are favorable, brace roots are able to penetrate into the soil and effectively extract water and nutrients from the top layer of the soil. Maize is vulnerable to dry soil conditions as they don't have a very deep root system. Maize grows on a single stem called a stalk, which can grow 10 to 15 feet tall. Maize has large leaves which wrap around the stalk. A single stalk can hold about 16 to 22 leaves. However, the number of leaves can vary from 8 to 44 depending upon the photoperiod conditions. Maize is a short day plant, and under unfavorable conditions, the vegetative growth continues and the number of leaves increased. The tassel and ears are reproductive structures which are responsible for the formation of kernels. The tassel is the male part of the plant which emerges from top of the plant after all the leaves have developed. Many male flowers are on the tassel. The male flowers release pollen grains which contain the male reproductive cells. One or more female parts called the ear are born in leaf axils as clusters called a cob at the joint of a stalk. Corn silk which extends from the corn husk is the stigma and style. These pollen tubes are the longest known in the plant kingdom. As pollen receptors, each silk must be individually pollinated to produce a fruit or kernel. Pollination occurs when pollen is carried from the tassels to the exposed silks on the ear of corn, which is the female flower on the plant. The male reproductive cell goes down to the female egg contained within the ear and there fertilizes it. There are 1 to 3 cobs usually per stalk, and the number of rows is 8 or more per each fertilized cob or ear. If we talk about the growth stages or phenology of maize, This can be divided into vegetative and reproductive phases. The vegetative growth stages are VE, that is emergence of the plant above the soil surface, V1, that is first fully expanded leaf, V2, that is second fully expanded leaf, V3, that is third fully expanded leaf, up to however many leaves appear. The last stage is called VT in vegetative phase, that is when the tassel has fully emerged. Then starts the reproductive stage, which are noted as R1 through R6. R1 refers to the stage when the corn silks are first visible outside the husks and pollination occurs. During the other R stages, the kernels are still developing, whereas R6 is the final stage. At this stage, the kernels have reached their maximum dry weight, and corn is ready for harvesting at about 15% grain moisture content or when the cob sheaths are dried. Mexico or Central America is believed to be the homeland of modern maize. Modern maize varieties or hybrids have higher dry matter and larger cobs with greater number and weight of kernels per cob. Maize is a short day plant with wide geographic adaptations. Grown in regions below sea level to regions 13,000 feet above sea level. Maize is adapted to warmer temperatures, but the higher temperatures significantly reduce crop yields. We witnessed this in the last Kharif or autumn maize season when temperatures or the intense heat waves during the month of August reduced the pollen viability, pollination that cause offsetting of the grain setting. The impact increased as we move from north to south. So maize pollination is severely affected when the temperature exceeds 37.5 degrees Celsius. The best temperature for maize germination is 21 to 32 degrees Celsius, and temperature less than 15 degrees Celsius causes delay in silking and tasseling. One of the main goals of plant breeders is to reduce the anthesis to silking interval. So too high or too low temperature can significantly affect maize yields. The rain-fed production of maize is possible with an annual rainfall of 20 to 40 inches. If we talk about the ideal soil type for maize cultivation, the well-drained, fertile and heavy loam soils with a pH of 5.5 to 8 are ideal for maize cultivation. Sandy, saline and waterlogged soils are not recommended for maize cultivation. Maize is one of the crops that are too sensitive to waterlogged conditions. Waterlogged conditions in excess of 3 days, especially at the earlier growth stages such as V3 leaf stage, can reduce yields by as much as 40%. And the impact of waterlogging is enhanced with the increasing duration of waterlogging. In Pakistan, maize is the third most important cereal crop after wheat and rice, but ranks first in terms of productivity, that is around 4.8 tons per hectare. Maize is exclusively grown in two provinces, Punjab and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. Punjab province accounts for 62% of area that produces 85% of the total production. Maize production increased from 0.35 million tons at the time of independence to the current about 5.7 million tons, and so increased the maize area from 0.36 million hectare at the time of independence to the current about 1.25 million hectares. The special rise in maize production was brought about after 2000 with the advent of multinational seed companies. Initially, the steady increase in total production came as the local varieties were substituted by synthetic varieties, and later on the synthetic varieties were substituted by the modern hybrids in most parts of the country. The total production increase was a result of increase in the harvested area as well as the increase in per acre yield. The modern improved hybrids in combination with better agronomic practices significantly resulted in increased per acre yield as well as the increased harvested area. The improved hybrids had better input responsiveness, for example, to fertilizers, resistance to lodging, higher yield potential, longer leaf area duration, and better tolerance to various kinds of stresses. Improved hybrids in combination with the better agronomic practices such as adjusted planting density, bed sowing, and dual cropping resulted in a significant rise in the per acre yield. However, the per acre yield is still below the global average yield for maize. In 2018 and 19 season, maize production was 6.31 million tons and maize harvested area was 1.32 million hectare. The increased area and production came from the shifting of cotton and sugarcane area in favor of maize, better net returns, and the availability of good quality seed. Maize is a multi-purpose crop that is grown by both small and large farmers. Maize grain is used in poultry feed, that is 60% consumption or utilization of maize grain in Pakistan, 30% in industry and for home use, 6% for human food, 4% for seed and other purposes. Maize forage is also of premium quality that can be fed as green chop fodder at all stages of its growth, unlike some other fodder such as sorghum and its related species, which cannot be fed at all stages due to the presence of prussic acid or hydrocyanic acid. Maize silage has a high value, in particular for lactating animals. There is an annual 4% increase in the rate of silage production, and keeping in view the increasing interest of farmers for producing silage for local as well as export market, The seed companies are now introducing the dual purpose hybrids, that is grain plus silage. Due to its shorter growing season, maize can be included as an extra crop in different cropping rotations and fits well in our local cropping systems. For example, in cotton based systems where there is a problem of high water table, maize can replace cotton. And in vegetable and potato based systems where the early maturing varieties are available, maize can be included as an extra crop. And autumn maize is suitable for wheat based systems. Under Pakistani conditions, the ideal soil type for maize cultivation is a well drained, fertile, heavy loam soil with a pH of 7 to 8. The aim of land preparation is to prepare a loose seed bed that has a fine crumb-like structure. Because maize is a free-rooting and exhaustive crop, so it is necessary to avoid soil compaction and clod formation. Different tillage options are available, such as plowing, disking, harrowing, chiseling, rotavating, cultivating, and planking. So, farmer selects of these tillage operations depending upon the soil conditions and the available farm machinery. For a good seedbed preparation, the land preparation should start with the use of a moldboard plow at least 1 month before sowing. Moldboard plow is used where soil inversion is necessary and it tills the soil to a depth of 25 to 30 centimeter. In soils where a hard pan is present, then it is recommended to use a chisel plow. And if the previous crop residues are present, then the crop residues should be chopped and incorporated into the soil by using a rotavator. Proper land leveling with a laser land leveling is a must for uniform germination and water saving. So laser leveling is also highly recommended. For seedbed preparation, the soil is prepared to a depth of 4 inches or 10 centimeter by 3 to 4 cultivations, followed by planking. In this way, the proper root bed and proper seed bed with the fine crumb-like structure is prepared. And a field guide to assess a proper seed bed is that when you can kick a foot through the soil, then it is a good indicator of a proper seed bed. So proper seed bed ensures a proper crop stand and proper germination. In Pakistan, white endosperm corn types are preferred over the yellow endosperm corn types because the white endosperm corn types bring higher prices in the market, and the yellow endosperm corn types are not accepted by the dry milling industry for its yellowish flour color. Dry milling is simply grinding the grain, whereas wet milling is a complex industrial process that produces starch and starch related chemicals as well as oil, bran, and protein products. About 30 to 40% area is sown with improved hybrids, and the remaining area is sown by local or synthetic varieties. Synthetic varieties are produced by randomly mating parents and increasing the product from such multiple crosses. The recommended synthetic varieties are Ageti 2002, Pearl, MMRI Yellow, Malka 2016, Gohar 19, Sahiwal Gold, Simit Park, Pop 1, and Sweet 1. Pakistan's maize sector has achieved a remarkable milestone in 2019 by releasing 10 new maize varieties uh, in collaboration with the International Maize and Wheat Improvement Center, that is CIMIT. The Maize and Millet Research Institute Sahiwal released Gore 19, Simit Park, Sahiwal Gold, and Pop 1 as the newest addition to Pakistan's maize varieties. These varieties are short duration so that they can be harvested quickly to allow next crop to be grown. Among these varieties, Pop 1 is the popcorn variety and Sweet 1 is the sweet corn variety. In addition, the Agriculture Research Institute ARI in Quetta, in collaboration with CIMIT, has got approved the varieties which are drought tolerant, namely Miraj 2019, Mazeb 2019, Noor 2019, Pagunda 2019, Silver 2019, and Sarsabz 2019. So these drought tolerant varieties can be grown with 4 to 6 irrigations. And this is a great step towards the development of dryland farming in the Balochistan province. The improved hybrids have high yield potential, better input responsiveness, resistance to lodging, and better tolerance to various kinds of stresses. The genetic basis of hybridization is the exploitation of heterosis or the phenomena of hybrid vigor that makes the product of a cross between two inbred lines which outperform its parents. And initially the double cross hybrids were used, but now the international or multinational companies have introduced the single cross hybrids, which are very popular among progressive farmers which grow maize as a commercial or industrial crop, such as in Okada, Sahiwal, and Pakpatan. The hybrids developed by public sector institutes such as Ayub Agriculture Research Institute Faisalabad or Maize and Millets Research Institute Sahiwal are FH949, YH1898, FH1046, FH1036, and YH5427. In addition to this, the generic and multinational seed companies have introduced different hybrids, and practically few of them really dominate the cultivation. Farmers are advised to purchase seed from registered dealers and maintain or keep with them the proper receipt and seed bags after sowing. Fodder varieties developed by the Fodder Research Institute are Sargoda 2002 and Super Green Makai. These varieties have yield potential of 600 to 660 mounds per acre and mature in 55 to 65 days. The fodder purpose varieties are leafy and stay green type. In Pakistan, maize is a dual season crop, spring and autumn or kharif season crop. The introduction of spring season crop is a success story of the maize seed form, which introduced the spring maize in 1968. The maize seed farm is now the Maize and Millets Research Institute. Spring maize is sown in February, whereas autumn or kharif maize is sown in the months of July and August. Although some farmers plant as early as May or as late as September. The spring maize uh, has higher yield due to longer days and more sunlight. The autumn maize has shorter days and shorter duration, almost 15 days shorter than spring maize. This is because maize is a short day plant typically, and longer days or shorter nights delay the onset of flowering. So maize yield of spring is 25% more than the autumn yield. If we talk about the sowing time, in spring the optimum sowing time is end of January to end of February, whereas in autumn the optimum sowing time is mid-July to mid-August. Last year the autumn or kharif crops suffered due to intense heat waves, and the earlier sown crop was most affected. The crop that was sown in the first fortnight of July or even before that during June. So the recommendations of sowing time have been revised in this year's plan. In last year it was recommended to sow the maize from first week of July to mid-August, but this year the recommended time is mid-July to mid-August to avoid the heat stress. Normally during the spring maize crop, due to higher yield, the extension agents and crop advisory service providers are proactive during the spring season, and they regularly monitor the crop and advise farmers in case of a mishap. But the occurrence of intense heat waves during the kharif or autumn maize was unprecedented, and it was a surprise for farmers as well as for extension agents and seed companies. But this year hopefully farmers as well as the crop advisory service providers will be more vigilant during the autumn season as they are during the spring season. So end of January to end of February for spring maize, and mid-July to mid of August for autumn maize, except for the Rawalpindi division. In Rawalpindi division, the spring crop is sown from mid of March to mid of April, whereas in rain-fed regions of Attock, Gujarat, Jhelum and Rawalpindi, the Kharif season crop should match or coincide with the onset of monsoon rains. And the fodder purpose maize can be sown from mid-February to September. The fodder purpose varieties have high nutritional value for lactating animals and for fattening of livestock as well as poultry birds. They have higher nutritional value than the commonly grown hybrids, although some of the recently introduced hybrids are dual purpose. They are grown for both grain and silage. The synthetic varieties take longer duration to maturity, so their sowing must be completed till 10th of August. So these are the main considerations for sowing time. Let us now discuss the sowing methods. Basically, there are two sowing methods: flat sowing and raised sowing. Flat sowing is also called as line sowing, and raised sowing in the form of raised beds or ridges. The preferred method of sowing in rain-fed areas is line sowing, and in irrigated areas is the ridge or bed sowing. Seed rate for line sowing is 12 to 15 kg per acre, and seed rate for irrigated areas is 8 to 10 kg per acre. The seeds must be purchased from reliable dealers and should have a germination percentage of more than 90%. Before sowing, the seed should be treated with insecticides such as imidacloprid or thiamethoxam to prevent against the sucking insects, in particular shoot fly. And to prevent the crop against diseases, the seed should also be treated with fungicides such as thiophanate methyl or benomil. The optimum seed depth is 2 inches to 2.5 inches. If the seed is sown too deep, the plumule may be damaged and there are problems in emergence. And if the seed is sown too shallow, the top soil layer may dry out quickly and there is problem in seed germination. In rain-fed areas, the sowing is done with the help of a manual single row cotton drill or with tractor drawn drill or planter or by Kera or Kora method with a row to row distance of 2.5 feet or 75 centimeter. Later on, at 4 to 5 inches plant height, thinning is done to maintain a plant to plant distance of 8 inches for hybrids and 9 inches for synthetic varieties. In irrigated areas, ridges or beds are made with the help of a ridger. The direction of ridges should be east-west. And before sowing, light irrigation is applied and seed is sown on one side of the ridges on the slope above the water line in moist soil. The direction of sowing should be on the southward side in spring and northward side in autumn, because in spring sowing on the southward side ensures higher temperature and rapid germination. In kharif sown crop, the temperature is already high and there is risk of drying out. So to conserve moisture, the seeds are sown on the northward side of the ridge. And if the row to row distance is 3 feet, then sowing can be done on both sides of the ridges. Irrigation, the first irrigation is done 7 days after sowing in spring crop and 4 to 5 days after sowing in autumn sown crop. Modern seed cum bed planters are also available, which make beds and dibble the seed and apply fertilizer at the same time. The main advantages of ridge sowing are the optimal plant population, less seed rate, no need for thinning, and higher yield. The plant to plant distance for spring maize is 6 inches for hybrid types and 7 to 8 inches for synthetic types. And in autumn maize, plant to plant distance is 7 inches for hybrid types and 8 to 9 inches for synthetic types. The recommended plant to plant distance for sweet corn and popcorn types are 8 inches for spring maize and 9 inches for autumn maize. Maize plant is extremely sensitive to moisture extremes. It means that both the excess and deficiency of water cause significant reductions in yield and quality of maize. During seed germination, with respect to its seed weight, the seed can absorb 30% of water. So if the seed depth is too shallow, the soil can quickly dry out, causing poor germination. And another disadvantage is that due to shallow seed depth, the plant roots cannot go deeper into the soil, and later on the plant is susceptible to lodging. Therefore, at the time of sowing, proper seed depth should be maintained, and after sowing, in case of raised bed sowing or ridge sowing, the field should be kept in proper weather conditions till the germination is completed. Maize is a fast growing tall plant with larger leaf area and grows in warmer environments, so it has high water requirements. In case of spring crop, maize requires 12 to 14 irrigations, and in case of a autumn crop or kharif crop, maize requires 10 to 12 irrigations. Some of the recently approved varieties for Balochistan province are claimed to be drought resistant, requiring only 4 to 6 irrigation. So this will be a great game changer for dryland agriculture and for maize sector, particularly in the Balochistan province. In the earlier stages, maize is especially sensitive to waterlogging. Waterlogging duration and the growth stage determine the damage caused by flooding stress. So following a rainfall event or a heavy irrigation, the fields must be drained if excess water is there in the field. In maize field, waterlogged or flooded conditions in excess of 3 days significantly reduce crop yields, sometimes resulting in total crop failures. If water deficit occurs, then it can cause early tasseling and delayed silking. This means that the male and female reproductive parts or tasseling and silking stages are not synchronized, and due to this synchronization, the pollination is severely affected, causing barrenness or poor grain development. Similarly, water deficit at blister and milk development stage, that is R2 to R3 stages, can significantly reduce yields. In case of an abrupt rise in temperature during the crop growing season, the farmers must reduce the irrigation interval, and there and if there is a drop in the air temperature, then the irrigation interval can be increased. For optimal management of irrigation in maize cultivation, 12 to 14 irrigation for spring sown crop, 10 to 12 irrigation for autumn sown crop, and need based irrigation for fodder purpose crop. And the water deficit must be avoided at VT or tasseling stage, at blister to milking stage, that is R2 and R3 stage, and in case of excess water in the field following a rainfall event or a heavy irrigation, the extra water must be drained out for proper irrigation management. The fertilizer is a costly input and must be judiciously used. The soil fertilizers should be applied based on the recommended doses and based on lab analysis of soil. So fertilizer use depend on soil pH, soil salinity level, soil texture, the source of available water, whether it is canal or tube well, the amount and quality of irrigation water, cropping intensity, and the amount of fertilizers applied to previous crops. So based on the soil analysis report, the fertilizers can be used according to this table. For example, for low fertility soil, the recommended dose of nitrogen, phosphorus and potash is 119, 69 and 50 kg per acre. Similarly, for medium fertility soils, it is 92, 58 and 37 kg per acre. And for relatively high fertility soil, the amount of nutrients to be applied is reduced to 75, 46 and 25 for hybrids. For synthetic varieties, likewise, the amount of nutrient or the number of bags of fertilizers to be applied can be adjusted. So it is very important to apply fertilizers in balanced proportion. That is, right fertilizer in right amount at right time by right application method. In irrigated areas, all of the phosphatic and potassic fertilizers and 1/4 of the nitrogenous fertilizer is applied at the time of sowing. The nitrogenous fertilizers are applied in 4 equal splits. At sowing, number 2 at 5 to 6 leaf stage, number 3 at 8 to 10 leaf stage, and number 4 at 14 to 15 days before tasseling. In rain-fed areas, all nitrogenous, phosphatic and potassic fertilizers should be applied at the time of sowing. The phosphatic, potassic and nitrogenous fertilizers applied at the time of seedbed preparation must be incorporated into the soil. Soil analysis data suggests that all Pakistani soils are essentially deficient in nitrogen, more than 90% in phosphorus and about 50% in potash. The application of potash is especially recommended in case of sandy soils or in case of the tube well irrigated crop. If possible, the potash should be applied by band placement method. Before sowing, well-rotten farmyard manure at the rate of 9 to 12 tons per acre should be spread in the field after primary tillage operations and before rounding for seedbed preparation. In case there is deficiency of zinc and boron, zinc sulfate with 25% zinc should be applied at the time of sowing at the rate of 10 kg per acre, or 33% zinc sulfate at the rate of 6 kg per acre. And borax, in case of boron deficiency, should be applied at the rate of 3 kg per acre that contains 11% boron. If maize crop follows potato, then the amount of phosphatic and potassic fertilizers can be reduced. So by following these basic principles, the fertilizer use efficiency and crop productivity can be significantly improved. We have to protect the maize crop against a number of enemies such as weeds, insect pests, and pathogens. Weeds are the unwanted plants that compete with field crops for space, water, light, and nutrients. In maize crop, weeds can reduce yields by as much as 20 to 45%. There are a number of weeds present in maize fields which can be grouped into three categories. Grasses like khabbal, madana, baru, swank, etc. Sedges, for example, dila or murak, and broad-leaved weeds such as itsit, hazardani, pakhda, chulai, etc. These weeds can be controlled by employing non-chemical and chemical methods. So starting with the non-chemical methods, I would like to start with the dab method. In dab method, the weeds are provided with a suitable environment by rounding irrigation followed by cultivation and planking, and leaving the field for about a week so that weed seeds present in the soil can germinate. And when the weeds have emerged, then they are killed by the subsequent land preparation operations. This is called as dab method. The other agronomic practices are crop rotation with berseem, lucerne, maize, or sorghum. Deep tillage with moldboard plow can control weeds, especially the weeds which grow by its vegetative parts such as roots or underground stems. Use of pure seed which don't have weed seeds in it. Timely sowing, side dressing of fertilizers, intercultivation or hoeing, especially in raised bed crops, and clean cultivation. Clean cultivation means everything that comes in contact with seed or soil is clean, that is free of weeds such as water channels, agricultural machinery, etc. So these are non-chemical methods which are employed to manage weeds in maize crop. The chemical method is a quick and efficient method of controlling weeds, especially under conditions when labor is not available for hoeing or for intercultivation. So two types of herbicides can be applied: pre-emergence and post-emergence. Pre-emergence herbicides are applied before the emergence of weeds and include pendimethalin, acetochlor, and S-metolachlor plus atrazine. The post-emergence herbicides are applied after the emergence of weeds, usually at 2 to 5 leaf stage, and these include the reduced dose of S-metolachlor plus atrazine, nicosulfuron, and atrazine. So by applying these non-chemical and chemical methods, weeds can be managed in maize crop. Different insect pests that can attack maize crop are termite, shoot fly, stem borers, aphid, jacid, helianthus, and armyworm. Termite can be controlled by applying chlorpyrifos along with irrigation water. And the application of fresh or unrotten farmyard manure should be discouraged to control the termite attack. Shoot fly can be controlled by seed treatment with imida or thiamethoxam, and in case of attack, imida can also be sprayed with an interval of 8 to 10 days and on the completion of emergence. Stem borers can be controlled by destroying the crop stubbles, and biological control is the use of trichogramma cards. So use 20 trichogramma cards per acre and should be changed every 15 days. And in case of severe attack, apply carbofuran at the rate of 4 to 6 kg per acre in whorls, followed by irrigation. Aphid and jacid can be controlled by spraying carbosulfuran or imidacloprid. Helianthus can be controlled by spraying chlorpyrifos, and armyworm can also be controlled by spraying chlorpyrifos, and if there are distinct patches of armyworm attack, then the eggs and larvae can also be handpicked. So in this way we can manage the insect pest in maize crop. Important diseases that attack maize crop are seed and seedling diseases, stalk rot, smut of maize, leaf blight of maize, and ear and grain rot. These diseases can be managed by sowing the disease resistant varieties or hybrids, seed treatment with thiophanate methyl or benomyl at the rate of 2 to 2.5 gram per kg seed, timely sowing, maintaining soil fertility, in particular by avoiding the deficiency of potassium and avoiding the overuse of nitrogenous fertilizers. And another successful strategy is crop rotation, in particular for one of the major diseases, that is stalk rot, which can be controlled efficiently by not growing maize for a few years. I just received this picture from one of my students, Mr. Ali Nawaz, and this phenomenon is called as tassel ears. So both male and female parts are at the same place, which is abnormal development. Although the exact cause of this tassel ear phenomena is unknown, but the possible causes could be genetics, soil compaction, injury at V6 stage, and soil saturation immediately after planting. So this phenomena has been observed in maize fields of Okada this year. Harvesting marks the end of a growing season and the end of a production cycle. Maize should be harvested at an appropriate time, which depends on the days to maturity for a particular variety and the purpose for which it is grown. For example, fodder type varieties can be harvested at 50% tasseling stage. Sweet corn can be harvested at milking stage. And the grain cob is physiologically mature when a black layer has formed at the base of the kernels. This can be assessed by detaching few kernels from the cob. So when the grain cob sheath has turned brownish or dried, and when you cannot insert the nails into the grain, or the grains are hard, then this is the time for harvesting the grain cobs. The harvested grain cobs are husked and spread on, preferably on a cemented floor, and dried for a few days. During drying, they should be inverted or rotated regularly, and at 15% moisture content they are ready for shelling or separation of grains from the cob. This is the stage when there is a cracking sound on chewing the maize grains. Or this can also be assessed by rubbing two maize cobs against each other, and at this stage the grains can be easily separated. So this is the appropriate time for shelling. The separation of grains is also done locally by manual method. However, the maize shellers are available, which is a quick and efficient method of separating grains from the cob. And after separating grains from the cob, they should be stored at less than 13% moisture content. Too early or too late harvesting can significantly reduce maize yield and quality. Early harvesting means incomplete grain development, lower seed weight, and reduced yield as a result of grain shriveling. Too late harvesting means the crop is predisposed to damages by lodging and by rainfall. Rainfall can also result in the growth of fungus, which significantly reduces grain quality. Under field conditions, a quick assessment for harvesting time is that don't pick cobs with green or moist silks. If there are big and small kernels on the cob, then don't pick it. And if the head or tip of the cob is still pointed and not rounded, then don't pick those cobs. So nice thick cob with dried or no silks and a nice rounded head indicates that the grain cob is ready to be harvested. Due to its shorter growing season and multiple uses, including the industrial uses, maize has become an important commercial crop in Pakistan. Maize productivity is now touching almost 5 tons per hectare with an annual production of about 6 million tons. The per acre yield is highest in South Asia, but still lower than the world's average yield. So there are different constraints in realizing the full yield potential. Although some progressive farmers in Okara, Sahiwal or Pakpatan regions are realizing 100 mons per acre yield. So the number one constraint is the high price of quality seed. The hybrid seed cost about 7 to 8 US dollar per kg, uh, which is not affordable for the small landholding farmers. Encouraging local or generic seed companies to increase seed production, to encourage the multinational seed companies for installing local plants in the country, and to enhance the capacity of public sector institutes such as MMRI. Not only the seed is costly, but other inputs such as fertilizers or irrigation water or pesticides are also sometimes unaffordable for farmers, and they compensate it with the less use of recommended inputs. This also results in lowering the per acre productivity. So in this regard, subsidizing the inputs and minimizing the role of middleman is proposed, and to encourage farmers for achieving maximum yield. The instability in prices due to this announcement of support price for competitive crops by government, due to the role of middlemen, and the lack of a well-established market is severely affected, often by the monopoly of industry or by the monopoly of middlemen. So a well-established market with minimum role of middlemen and revisited support price of competitive crops are possible solution for stabilizing the market prices for maize grains. Farmers also have their own socio-economic constraints. For example, in central Punjab, the farmers have large land holdings and they are progressive farmers with access to seed and modern agricultural machinery. But the farmers in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province have small land holdings, and some of them belong to rain-fed areas. Similarly, farmers in South Punjab may have similar problems. So these problems of small landholders or farmers with lesser experience of growing maize should also be addressed. Then there are certain climatic constraints, for example, heat stress or the environmental constraints such as waterlogging. Heat stress affected the maize crop in spring season during 2016 when temperature changed abruptly in May, and last year in Kharif crop when the temperature increased abruptly in August. This resulted in poor pollination and poor grain setting. For this purpose, a recommended method is to revise the sowing window, which has been done this year for autumn maize. A long-term solution is development of heat-tolerant hybrids by exploring the local germplasm, because the Pakistani germplasm has the highest heat tolerance compared to rest of the world's germplasm. Pakistan is already actively collaborating with CIMMYT, and recently a few varieties have been released in 2019. So further collaboration with CIMMYT on the development of heat resistant hybrids or synthetic varieties by utilizing the local germplasm will be a promising option. Short-term solutions are to keep an eye on the weather forecast and adjust the irrigation interval in view of a sudden rise in air temperature. Waterlogging or flooding can be managed by proper drainage of the field. Another major source of losses in yield and grain quality are in the form of post-harvest losses, especially for the autumn season crop that is sown in August and harvested in November when the weather is foggy and temperature is low. The maize cobs are piled in the field and they are exposed to damage by rodents, insects, fungi and aflatoxins from soil. So proper drying and storage facilities should be available to reduce post-harvest losses. Overall, we can say that maize crop has bright prospects in Pakistan, and Pakistan's collaboration with CIMIT will result in the uplift of maize sector in both irrigated and rain-fed areas.